Hey, you guys. Good afternoon. All right. This is the document I was looking at before, Mary Rose Trust. Now remember, we found Tammy Sue Neptune under the Z1 fugitive. They're basically pretending that we're fugitives. Now, I know because I got my fingerprints done and sent it in to the FBI, where they had something on my background that was not a crime I committed. So they basically frame you because you don't have rights in America. If you're under this trust, you are under authority of the Queen, who doesn't want you to be able to work and doesn't want you to be able to earn any money, because then you would be a satisfied citizen, and they don't want you to have babies because they want to take the babies, take your rights to have babies, because there's something in your lineage. Now, I don't know what is in your lineage that they want, but there's something in your lineage. And I'm sure that the people who have been targeted, there's something very important about you. So try not to take it personally, but you should be able to fight for your rights. Your rights to your own money, your own earnings, your own, whereas the trust is doing anything they want. They're forging documents. They're just doing anything they want. And most people don't ever find out. And for the people who have killed themselves, for the people who, there was a woman on a show called Plastic Disasters. She said she couldn't breathe. I mean, they took so much of her upper jaw out. She couldn't breathe. And they do this under environmental laws. They do it under, where you're under authority of the Queen. You can still sue the trusts, though, just so you know. So if Natasha Kinski owns I think it's called the Love Trust, and then that's managed by Major League Baseball, right? So you can sue those parties. Natasha Kinski's daughter posed as my friend to infiltrate my life, pretend she was a friend, just basically to spy on me for the trust, which is totally illegal to do. But under trusts, you can do anything you want, because they're forging your signature that you can deal with or handle the property in any way you want, including, to me, any way you want includes rape, torture, anything you want to do to the person. So, but if you're under some kind of federal custody, which the FBI is using these trusts, putting them out, overseas, out to sea, to give back to these communities. So it's like a trust, but it's a person. So it's like a high level form of human trafficking. All right, so let me show you this. Okay, so Portsmouth and the, Soylent, I told you Soylent Mary Rose Museum. All right, this is what I wanted to show you last time. It says, okay, so it's founded in 1968 with the intent to find, excavate, raise, and preserve for all time such remains of the ship Mary Rose. Mr. Pink, try to think of all the ways they used Mr. MR, maybe of historical and archaeological interest. Usually you can press this and it'll do something. It was scouted and surveyed with side scan sonar. I'm not sure why sonar is a technique that uses sound propagation to navigate, communicate with, or detect objects on or under the surface of the water, such as other vessels. Two types of technology share the same sonar. Passive sonar is essentially listening to the sound for the sound. Whoa, where'd it go? An active sonar is emitting a sound. All right. So, revealing a hidden feature. Now, I want to tell you something about myself. Is that I went to a hospital, Kaiser, and they were doing some kind of study. I think it was some kind of study where they do like an ultrasound, and they asked if other people could come in because there was something unusual about what they were seeing. Now, I thought that was just a missing ovary or something like this, but it could be something else. Maybe the people that they are calling fish are born with certain attributes. Remember the structure of evolution where they say that we were born from fishes, right? Born and then become monkeys or whatever. Now, if you believe that or not, I don't know. I think a lot of these things that they tell us are to allow us to be used in these ways. All right, so revealing a hidden feature. The first loose timber was located in 1970, and the buried wreck of Mary Rose finally located on May 5th of 1971. Through the 1970s, volunteer divers, that's people who are targeting you, and archaeologists surveyed the ship and conducted some limited excavations. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but this is, very weird. In the 1960s and 70s, okay, you can read all this, but look at this. Merchant Shipping Act of 1894 stipulated that any wreck that was unclaimed and was salvaged had to be sold to pay for the expenses of the salvers, right? So basically they're calling you a shipwreck, right? This meant that any shipwreck old enough to fall under the sway of the act. We have to read the act, right? And find out. Look, the Merchant Shipping Act. Look, see how it says page does not exist? All right. I just pointed to my screen to point that to you. Like I pointed to it and you can't see it because I'm not videotaping myself. All right. So you have to read what this act says. Under the sway of the act was threatened by commercial exploitation. Instead of being carefully excavated and recorded by maritime archaeologists, Ma, your mother, let's get this, discipline within archaeology as a whole that specifically studies human interaction with the sea, lakes, and rivers through the study of associated physical remains, be they vessels, okay, remember we're called vessels, human remains, and submerged stuff. All right, here we go. The Joint Organization Committee for Nautical Archaeology, of which the Mary Rose Committee was a member, successfully lobbied to grant the wreck legal protection under the Protection of Wrecks. It's an act under Parliament of the United Kingdom which provides protection for designated shipwrecks. All right. However, the risk of having salvaged artifacts confiscated was still very real under the UK salvage law, and a confrontation had to be averted by continuous negotiations with the receiver of wreck. It's an official who administers law dealing with maritime wrecks and salvage in some countries having a British administrative heritage. Who has that? America. In the United Kingdom, the receiver of wreck is also appointed to retain the possession of royal fish on behalf of the British Crown. All right. So the receiver of wreck is appointed to retain the possession. This started getting me to think of why, people went overseas to Dr. Eon and really wanted me to go to Dr. Eon. Because that, a lot of what I found on these ancestry sites shows that Marleybone, I think that's how to say it, where he's located, has jurisdiction over some of this stuff. Division of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, MCA Records, is an executive agency of the United Kingdom working to prevent the loss of lives at sea, and is responsible through the Secretary of State for transport to Parliament for implementing British and international maritime law and safety policy. So, this makes sense why when I was hit by a bus overseas, I couldn't get a lawyer. And then I watched money, a giant sum of money, exchanging hands with the people that were trying to represent me. The committee handled, okay, so the receiver of REC and the protection of RECs. All right, now when you look at this, there was something else I found in here that I thought was interesting. It's Rule 1983. Now, what does that remind me of? Is Rule 1983 is also the Civil Rights Act 1983, where you have been hurt by state or federal employees. That act is Bivens, where DEA and FBI agents came in and stole this man's property, which is what they're doing. They're stealing, but they're executing crimes way before that against humanity, claiming that you have something in your bloodline. Now, I don't know what it is, you guys. I don't know what it is. Something in your bloodline that needs to be studied, but then they're taking the ovaries so they can make more children, I think, to sell them. That is what I think. So the bloodline continues, but you don't get the right to raise your own children. And I don't think that's fair, because they're stealing your genetic materials to make babies on American soil. That means that you have legal rights in America. You have legal rights because your babies are here. I mean, I don't think they're implanting a woman and then sending her to England to give birth and then bringing the child back here. I think they're just doing this in a weird way. The loss and recovery of the Mary Rose. I mean, this is... You should read all of this if you want. But anybody who can see that the Neptune Act, right? The Neptune, Tammy Sue Neptune, aka Mary Rose, which we saw the other day when we were looking at those maritime vessel, those websites, is that the women are being kept as slaves on American soil, because if they're under this trust, they are under, like, this trust is bigger than, for example, the Douglas Trust or the Love Trust. Those are smaller trusts. But the Douglas Trust is held in Australia, which is, I think, New South Wales, right? And that is where Christmas Island is. And so I think it's a legal fiction that everyone's coming through that port. But the Love Trust is located, jurisdictionally in South Africa. So you can sue De Beers, but De Beers is just enacting what they're being told to enact by the British Crown, which is steal the ovaries of women under the trust, because it's of interest to them to have slaves in America, that they can use these slaves as, a financial instrument to give back to communities. And so everyone, like, I just thought about this from that Marlon Brando one, Stella, And wasn't there, I've always relied on the kindness of strangers. Now, I don't remember what that line is from. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, or that movie, Stella, I can't think of the movie. Streetcar Named Desire, right? Streetcar. We are a streetcar. We are a vessel that gives back. Everybody gets money except us. So if we are a part of the crown, we should get that money too. Anyway. Some laws to look at anyway. See you later.